Hey everybody, welcome in to RedZone. Michael Johnson here with you, and the chaos that is college football continues in Week 11. Another top 10 goes down. Baylor convincingly upsets Oklahoma. Oklahoma falls to 9-1, and we had other great games. You had Wake Forest and NC State. Michigan beats Penn State. Michigan State wins. Ohio State convincingly beats Purdue, and so on and so forth. And how is that going to affect the top 25? Well, I'm here to give you my RedZone top 25 heading into Week 12. And as you know, we've had 2 weeks of college football playoff rankings. We're going to see another week this Tuesday of rankings come out. But in the meantime, I don't necessarily agree with the playoff committee. I definitely don't agree with the AP. And so I'm here to give you my top 25 as I see it based on what I've seen on the field, what I've seen teams do. So another great week. We're coming down to the wire, but let's see who I have in the top 4, who I would put in the playoffs if the playoffs were to start this week. So let's take a look at that. Obviously, number 1 is Georgia. They got a convincing win over Tennessee. They clearly the top team in college football, and I don't think anybody's even close to them. But coming in at number 2 is Ohio State. Their offense seemed to be clicking against Purdue. They get a convincing win. They're sitting there with 1 loss. And number 3 is Alabama. They played New Mexico State. Pretty easy win for them. They win like 59-3. Bama, they're at 3 with 1 loss. Cincinnati moves up to number 4. They are undefeated at 10-0. They move up after the win against South Florida, and then Oklahoma losing to Baylor. So that is why Cincinnati is in the 4th spot. So right there, if the playoffs were to start today, I'd have Georgia taking on Cincinnati in 1 game, Ohio State, Alabama in the 2nd semifinal. Notre Dame comes in at 5. They got a very convincing win over Virginia. Then you have Oregon at 6. I know the playoff committee has them in the top 4. Ever since their loss to 3-6 Stanford, they have just just squeaked by. They haven't really convincingly beat anybody, even though they've been playing unranked teams. And I just don't think Oregon's one of the top 4 teams in the country, despite the fact that they did have a big win against Ohio State. Michigan State, they're at 7. They play Ohio State this week. That should be a great matchup. Michigan at 8 after their win against Penn State. Then you have Oklahoma State at 9. Really, the Cowboys are the top team in the Big 12. Their offense is clicking. It is finally on par with their defense, which is scary. They are scary good right now. They took care of TCU easily this past week. Cowboys at number 9. They could make it into the playoffs. There is an outside chance, but they need a lot of people losing in front of them to get up into the top 4. But it's not completely out of possibility for them going forward. Ole Miss, after the win over Texas A&M, they are in there at number 10. And then you have Oklahoma falling to number 11 after the loss to Baylor. Really, Baylor is the only good team that Oklahoma has played so far this year, and Baylor convincingly beat them. I mean, I don't think it wasn't even that close if you watch the game. They dominated Oklahoma completely. Wake Forest, they only have the 1 loss. They sit there at number 12 after beating NC State. Houston, they're at 13. They only have the 1 loss. Louisiana at 14. They only have 1 loss as well. I have them much higher than any other polls, but I think Louisiana is definitely deserving of that ranking. Then you have BYU at 15, Wisconsin at 16, Baylor 17, UTSA, Arkansas, Kentucky, Utah, Pitt, Texas A&M, San Diego State, and Iowa after their win over against Minnesota gets back in the top 25 at number 25. Really, I mean, you had teams losing. Auburn lost to Mississippi State, so you just had some teams fall out. Purdue lost, and so Iowa jumps back in there at the top in the top 25. That is my top 25 heading into Week 12 of college football. More great games coming up this week. Obviously, the biggest one on the slate, Ohio State, Michigan State. We're getting down to the wire where teams are playing each other. You got Ohio State coming up playing Michigan State, and Michigan. 2 of those teams get knocked out. I mean, bottom line, and 1 will survive. Cincinnati, if they just win out, they likely get in the playoffs at this point. Georgia and Alabama have to play each other, and more than likely Georgia's going to win that game, and so that knocks 1 out. And honestly, right now, at this point, with a few weeks left, we still have conference championships, but if I were to have to look ahead and maybe predict the top top 4 teams, who is going to be in the playoffs. Right now, looking forward, I think Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship game. I think Ohio State wins out. So I think Georgia number 1, Ohio State number 2. I think Cincinnati wins out and gets number 3. And then the 4th spot right now is probably going to be Notre Dame, because I think Notre Dame wins out. To me, if I had to predict what our final college football playoff rankings are going to be at the end of the season and who we will have in the playoffs, Georgia, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. That would create a Georgia-Notre Dame semifinal, Ohio State-Cincinnati semifinal, which, because of their proximity in the state of Ohio, would be a great semifinal, bringing great ratings, great money for college football. That's the way I predict it playing out, but obviously they still have to play the games, and we'll see how it all shakes out. I think Oregon is going to lose to Utah next week, so I think they'll be out of it. And then really after that, I mean, there's an outside chance Oklahoma State makes a run. I don't think Ole Miss can jump up there, so that's where we're really at. I mean, we're dwindling it down, and with 3 of those teams in the top 10 right now, being Ohio State, Michigan State, only one's going to survive that. And so it's a great time to be a college football fan. We only have a few weeks left. Let's see how it plays out. That's my RedZone Top 25. Hey, be sure to go check us out on social media. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, and always leave a comment and tell me what you think. And I'll see you next week. And be sure to tune in Monday for our college football predictions when Sean and I predict the Week 12 games. That's all I got. I'll see you next time. Take care.